One time, I had an entourage. And today is her birthday. Yeah, it was a small entourage, but it was mighty. Happy birthday, Julie. And many happy returns.
This is Mac OS Ken.
A troubling prediction for iPhone 14 Pros, good news for Apple on the Smartwatch front, and a surprising PR move for Apple TV Plus. It is Wednesday, the 30th of November, 2022. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by SimpliSafe. Get 50% off your order when you visit simplysafe.com/macOSKen today. This show is also sponsored by Rocket Money. Have you added up how much you're paying in subscriptions lately? Probably not, and that's not surprising. They're set it and forget it things. If you're worried, though, that you've actually forgotten about subscriptions you have and could be paying too much, Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, can help. The Rocket Money app shows you all of your subscriptions in one place. If you see some you don't use anymore or totally forgot about, Rocket Money can take care of them. To cancel a subscription, all you have to do is press cancel, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Get rid of useless subscriptions with Rocket Money now. Go to rocketmoney.com/MOK. Seriously, it could save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/MOK. Cancel your unnecessary subscriptions right now at rocketmoney.com/MOK. Kind of an odd post from TF International analyst Ming-Chi Kuo to start us off today. First off, iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max shipments for the current quarter are going to stink. That part of his post is neither odd nor surprising. For well over a month now, we've heard of production problems for Foxconn's iPhone City plant in Zhengzhou, the primary source for most of Apple's Pro-level phones. His expectation for this quarter's miss is drastic, though. In a post on Medium, the analyst says he has cut his unit numbers for iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max by 15 million to 20 million units. While most Apple watchers are looking for between 80 and 85 million Pro phones moved this quarter, Ming-Chi Kuo is only expecting the company to ship 70 to 75 million. For November, he says, the Zhengzhou plant was operating at about 20% capacity. He expects that to rise to between 30% and 40% in December. While Pegatron and Luxshare have obtained about 10% of the iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max orders from Foxconn, they won't start shipping in earnest until late December. This will, of course, cause earning ripples in the supply chain. Apple's iPhone revenue in the fourth quarter of 2022 may be significantly lower than the market consensus by 20 to 30% or more, according to the analyst. Given the issues with zero COVID in China and unrest among its workers, the analyst figures Foxconn will lose its exclusive deal to build Pro models in the iPhone 15 line, so that's a hit for that company. He also sees ripples in components, with assemblers not needing as many next quarter as previously expected, because they'll be sitting on a surplus from this quarter. But the phones all get sold eventually, right? Yeah, now we get to the odd part. While one thinks of Ming-Chi Kuo as a products guy and a supply chain guy, I don't usually think of him as a greater economy guy. He stepped out on that limb on Tuesday, though. While a number of analysts have said that sales missed this quarter are sales deferred, not sales lost, young MC disagrees. Quoting his post, I believe that most of the demand for the fourth quarter 22 iPhone 14 Pro series amid the economic recession will disappear due to the significant supply and demand gap rather than deferred. Maybe that's what beat down Apple shares on Tuesday. Maybe it was the continued goading by the chief troll at Twitter and his newfound friends in Congress. Whatever the case, Apple shares were down $3 and change on Tuesday, ending the day at $141.17. If you're looking for good news around Apple, check the time. New data from Counterpoint Research indicates that half of high-level operating system, or HLOS watches sold globally last quarter were Apple Watch models, and more than half of that half was Apple's latest Series 8. This is a market that is way not settled. Counterpoint divides the category into two subcategories, basic smartwatches and HLOS watches. While the HLOS segment grew 23%, the basic watch category more than doubled year over year. They were still dwarfed by the high-level operating system watches, though. Basic watches only accounted for 35% of the total market, with the other 65% devoted to HLOS devices. Apple Watch owned just under 51% of that 65%, with Apple Watch Series 8 accounting for 56% of Apple's 51%. The top market for smartwatch sales last quarter might surprise you. In terms of regions, says Counterpoint, India occupied the top position for the first time. Senior analyst Anshika Jain said India's smartwatch market grew 171% year over year in the third quarter to become the biggest market in the world. A few factors drove that growth, including India's festive season, expansion of homegrown products at affordable prices, and an emphasis on local manufacturing, which sounds both repetitive and redundant. Though the Counterpoint release does not make it clear, one assumes that the emphasis on locally made products and affordability means India was mostly buying basic smartwatches, not HLOS devices. Running down the regions, first place India accounted for 30% of the smartwatch market in the September quarter, up from 14% for the same quarter a year earlier. Shipments there grew the aforementioned 171%. Second place North America saw its share contract from 27% in the third quarter of 2021 to last quarter's 25%. Shipments still grew 21%, according to the report, and zero COVID and the subsequent economic downturn sent third-place China's share from 22% in the third quarter of last year to last quarter's 16%. Shipments there were off 6%, according to Counterpoint's counting. Apple's got the preliminary go-ahead to settle a class-action Butterfly keyboard lawsuit. Mac Rumors highlights a report from Law 360 saying a California federal judge has given early approval for Apple to settle the case for $50 million. If you are like me, you remember this problem very well. Apple introduced the Butterfly keyboard back in 2015, saying it provided a better feel, more stability, and let the company make laptops that were thinner than previous models. There was just one problem, though. They kind of sucked. According to Mac Rumors, thousands of people ran into problems with repeating keys, sticky keys, and keys that otherwise failed when dust and other particulates got into the Butterfly mechanism. The complaints led to a huge controversy over the Butterfly technology, and Apple ended up launching a keyboard repair program in June of 2018. Cool that they were fixing them, but the fix was to replace one Butterfly keyboard with another, which, surprise, was also prone to failure. So people in California, Florida, Illinois, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, and Washington sued the Cupertino company. Apple offered to settle for $50 million, and now a judge has given the preliminary okay. If you're wondering how that $50 million breaks down, Mac Rumors says it's $1.4 million in settlement administration costs, up to $2 million in litigation costs, and $13.6 million in attorney fees. The piece says affected customers will receive amounts up to $395, but you'll need to have had 2 or more repairs to get that. I'm going to use this word even though I don't mean it, to get that much. The report says affected Mac owners who had such replacements should start receiving settlement notices sometime in December. More news in a moment, but first a word from SimpliSafe, sponsor of today's show. Did you know that over the holidays, property crimes like burglaries and package thefts spike across the country? That's why the people at SimpliSafe Home Security are offering 50% off their award-winning security system. All the stuff I've told you I love about SimpliSafe is there. You getting to choose just the elements you need to keep your home and family safe. You setting it up yourself. No strangers traipsing in. Just an easy setup that took me well under an hour. And a 24/7 monitoring team that sends emergency services as soon as a threat is detected for less than $1 a day. SimpliSafe is offering its gear now at 50% off so that more families can feel safe and secure this holiday season. SimpliSafe was named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report for a 3rd year in a row, and now you can have it for less. Don't miss your chance for massive savings on a great security system. Get 50% off any new system at simplisafe.com/macOSKen today. This is their biggest discount of the year. SIMPLI. That's simplisafe.com/macOSKen. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. So the Apple Store in Hingham, Massachusetts has safety blocks now. Boston's WBZ-TV says just over a week after an SUV drove through the front window of Hingham's Apple Derby Street Center, killing one and injuring several, new steel barriers were put on the sidewalk along the boarded-up storefront. Not surprisingly, the move came just ahead of a lawsuit. Attorney Doug Sheff, who represents people who were hurt in the crash, was expected to file a lawsuit this week, according to WBZ, and he did. While the BZ piece was written before the suit was filed, a piece from CNN says suits have been filed on behalf of 2 of the injured parties, one of whom is identified as an Apple employee. Before filing the suit, the attorney argued that the tragedy was 100% preventable for a relatively small amount of money. Plenty of blame to go around in his estimation, with some for the driver, some for the companies that developed, own, and manage the property, and of course, some for Apple. The CNN piece doesn't say much about particulars of the lawsuits, except that they are both seeking jury trials. While both CNN and WBZ reached out to Apple and the property owners, neither received comment for their reports. Apple Pay is likely going live in South Korea this week. In fact, it may have done so already. A piece from 9 to 5 Mac says a local bank is announcing that its customers will be able to use Apple Pay starting the 30th of November. Checking the start of today's show, that is today. The piece cites a Twitter post showing advertisements of Hyundai Card, a credit card owned by Hyundai Motor Group, getting Apple Pay support today. Assuming the ad is correct, that'll mean Apple Pay going live in South Korea today, since it hasn't yet. Unless it has. We're down to this being a minute-by-minute thing. And finally today, something of a public relations surprise. Will Smith may be doing the rounds to promote the Antoine Fuqua-directed historical drama Emancipation. Set during the Civil War and based on a true story, the film follows Peter, a runaway enslaved person in search of his family. Eventually, according to a piece from the Mac Observer, Peter joins the Union Army, During a routine medical examination, doctors discover scars on Peter's back brought about by plantation owners. The newspaper The Independent took photographs of the scars and printed them, making it one of the first times the cruelty of slavery was really brought to the public eye. When the film was made, it seemed to have Oscar written all over it. Then the film's lead, Will Smith, slapped Chris Rock during this year's live Oscars telecast. That may have put a damper on the film's prospects, though Smith hopes not, hence the public relations surprise. The piece from Cult of Max says Smith appeared this week on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. There, the piece says he offered no defense for the slap, saying simply, "I lost it." But he doesn't want his rash action to cost others involved with the film due recognition. The piece has Smith saying Emancipation is Antoine Fuqua's masterpiece. He has created an absolute masterpiece. Bob Richardson, the director of photography, and actor Ben Foster, and just all the way down the line, it's like these top artists in the world have done some of the best work of their career. Smith went on to say, "I hope that their work will be honored and their work will not be tainted based on a horrific decision on my part." You can see the full interview on YouTube. As for the film, Emancipation starts a limited theatrical run this Friday, the 2nd of December. It starts streaming on Apple TV Plus 1 week later, Friday, December 9th. Today on the Mac Observer's Daily Observations podcast, Mac Geek Gab co-host Dave Hamilton is really excited about rapid security response coming in iOS 16.2. I will say I am also excited about that, and yet I seem to get argumentative about it. Also, societal norms around smartphones are still being hammered out in Dave's estimation. He'll drive a conversation about those today on the Daily Observations podcast from the Mac Observer, online at macobserver.com or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Rocket Money. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and save at rocketmoney.com/MOK. This show is also sponsored by SimpliSafe. Get 50% off your order when you visit simplysafe.com/macOSKen today. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.